Good morning, everybody. And for any of you in another time zone, good afternoon or good earlier morning. Real quick introduction. I'm Mark Niemeyer. I'm the CEO of the Western Fire Chiefs. We're going to be joined today by Rex Hughes with Hughes Fire Equipment, as well as Mike Dyke with Hughes Fire Equipment. Just want to thank you all for joining. And based on the number of attendees we have for this webinar, and I'm sure the many that will watch the recorded version, we know this is a big topic, and we're really excited to be here today to present what we feel is a solution. So, Tila, if you could go to the next slide. You're probably going to hear us say next slide. That's just you'll have to ignore that a little bit. So let me talk about why this conversation started. You know, as a fire chief, now retired fire chief, I knew all too well the challenges with apparatus, and really coming out of COVID really highlighted that more so than probably any other time during my career as a fire chief. So the challenges were pretty simple. We knew that we were having significantly extended apparatus lead times. You all feel that. We knew that we were facing escalating costs. And for many of you on this webinar, I'm sure you probably keep track of your historical costs for everything from fire apparatus to turnouts to everything else you need. And we knew those costs were rising. The spec complexity was becoming more complex as departments were engaged in adding more things. We also saw where that spec complexity was happening, i.e. the customization of apparatus. Real quick, I'm just watching Tila. I just lost my screen. I don't know if anybody else did. Maybe it's just me. Um, so the spec complexity was increasing. The aging fleet problem is happening to every fire department. We know that because we talk to you all. And I can say that from my 15 years experience as a fire chief. The fleet ages. So how do you keep up with that aging fleet? I also know right now, and you know it better than me, this is preaching to the choir. Y'all are facing limited budgets and you're facing staffing resource challenges. Some of you probably have very deep fleet departments. Some of you, it might be one person trying to manage your entire fleet. And so limited budgets and resource staffing are a problem today. And then the need to maintain response reliability. Having apparatus that are out of service, we know that's a challenge. So those were really the highlights when Rex and I got together and then engaging with Mike and the rest of the team at Hughes Fire. The question was, how do we solve these problems? And for those of you that know the Western well, that's what we do, right? We are here to represent you and help solve problems in the fire service. So today we're going to bring you a solution. We're excited to bring you the solution. It may or may not be for everybody. We hope it is, but at least you're getting a peek into a solution that we are going to be promoting through the Western Fire Chief. So Rex and Mike, thank you very much for joining us. I know you're going to take over some slides here in the future, but thanks for being a great partner and thank you for helping us find a solution, at least for the Western Fire Service on what these challenges are. So appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks,
Uh,
Chief.
so, you know, the goal, it's really simple. As we sat down, we said we need faster delivery. We need reduced complexity. We need to have some cost predictability. And especially in these kind of turbulent economic times, and depending on what state you're in, those tax revenues that you rely on so much are shrinking rapidly or shrinking moderately or maybe shrinking minimally. But cost predictability as a leader, you have to understand where costs are going to be able to balance your budgets and predict future budgets. So certainly that was a highlight of this discussion and this program that we're rolling out. We also wanted to make sure that we designed a spec that was proven, meaning how do we analyze what the majority are using that's been proven historically time and time again is successful. So you'll see that in the spec as we roll it out. And then operational reliability. We know that you can't have engines out of service for prolonged amounts of time. And really, this program that we're going to talk about today, I was asked a few times, does this involve ladder trucks? Does it involve Type 3 wildland engines? We are focusing on pumpers because that is still, and no disrespect to the truckies or the rescue folks, the pumpers are still the workhorse of the fire service. We know that. So we are going to be focusing on that today. Tila, next slide. And then again, how did we build it? How did Hughes Fire help design this up? This was built from the most commonly selected options and criteria that we see through the Hughes Fire Equipment territory. And I just want to mention a couple things here. One, this program right now is being rolled out with Hughes Fire. Certainly, we have a desired push throughout the entire West. So for those of you that are in states not represented by Hughes, we still want you to submit your interest card. And then, Mike, you and I have talked. You'll pass that on to the other regions and the other sales sales regions. But this really is something we want to see promoted throughout the West. Solve a problem and move forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike and Rex. Really appreciate, again, you guys being a great partner, helping us find a solution to a problem. I will be monitoring the chat room, so we don't have a live mic. We've learned that through webinars. We don't open the mic live. But if you do have a question, please put it in the chat, and I'll get to it for sure before we end today's webinar. So Mike, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. And thanks for the opportunity to talk about this topic. It's, my previous to Hughes, my fire service career, we talked a lot about specs and dialing in specs and costs and all the things that you mentioned. It's a huge, huge issue that frankly has been going on for decades. So I'm glad the Western had the vision to start the conversation on what are we going to do about it. And really that's the Chief Niemeyer's really teed this up well. I mean, the solutions are based on, what are the needs and what have we seen? Hughes Fire Equipment's been in existence for 40 years. What have we seen over those 40 years as far as the most commonly selected items, as far as option content, the specifications themselves, and also leaning on the horsepower of Pierce and North America and what we've seen in the trends in fire apparatus manufacturing and really building a truck that operates well, is resilient and dependable, and fits all your operational needs at the price and the delivery time that everyone's hoping for. So we did work with all the staff and come through all of our data to come up with the specifications, working with the Western, and we have two options to put it in front of you. So next slide. The first one, and these are the most common cab and pumper configurations that we see. First one is the Enforcer pumper, 1500 GPM pump, 750 gallon tank. Very straightforward approach. Again, the most common configurations we see. Now the spec itself is not just a basic spec or the bare bones spec. It's built on the most common things that we see specified. And then we also do see a few options selected, and you can see some of those available options on the list. There are some others, some of the items that are also available if departments want to see safety items added, roll protection, airbags, different things that may not be standard. Those items would be available. I will say though that the basic spec itself is really driving at that target of inexpensive and fast build time. So it's not a surprise, and it wouldn't matter where you get your fire apparatus from. The more option content you add, the longer it takes to build it, and the higher the price. I mean, that's the same as if you buy a vehicle for yourself just through a standard automotive dealership. If you buy the high-end model, it's going to cost more, and it may not be available. You may have to have it built. Something that's more bare bones would be cheaper and probably sitting on the lot. So not a surprise, but that's really how these specs work. Next slide. The second one is the Pierce Saber. Again, very commonly selected, very popular, and very similar in the configuration. Again, once you get beyond behind the cab, a lot of the pump, the tank, the compartmentation for a lot of departments, it's all the same. You don't see those variances based on what kind of cab they have. So it is established, and the spec is available in the base model. And then there's some additional options that if a department for their operational needs said, I got to have these things, they can work with staff to add those things and then see what it does to the price and the delivery time. I don't know, Rex, if you have anything you want to add there.
Oh, not at all, Mike.
Okay. All right. Next slide. So the pricing itself is a range again based on The chassis you choose, the cab you choose, the option selection, that range can be between 795 and 875,000. Again, driving at that, it's not to say you couldn't continue to add more options, but it may fall out of this program, or obviously it would definitely affect the price. But I think this is something that the fire service and really the Western, as a representative of the West and the fire service, has been asking for. Hey, how do I get an app fire engine and a pumper that's lower in price, dependable? Because if these are more commonly selected options, I mean, obviously, that's something that the different parts manufacturers tend to build more durable items when they build a lot of them, where something that there aren't as many builds out there, sometimes parts availability is longer, sometimes they're just not as dependable, and really this is driving at the heart of all that. Um, each department that learns about this program can just on a few slides, you're going to see a QR code. You could simply hit that QR code and put in your information, and then you'll be able to actually get a copy of the spec and dial it in and see what it would mean for you. But the beauty of what we've been able to accomplish with this is if you have a more simplified spec, um, the manufacturer is able to deliver some of those depending on how many options that you choose at a very rapid rate. In fact, right now we believe it'll be between 9 and 12 months for some of the models, depending on again the model and the option content that that department would choose. So I think that Chief, when we were talking about this, I mean that's the old days. Earlier in my career, that used to be pretty standard before COVID. That hey, you order a truck, about a year later, you get it.
Yep.
And thanks to Rex and the Hughes team and working with Pierce, we're able to actually achieve that. And I think that's going to be something, especially for those departments that are in a pinch. They have that aging apparatus. They haven't really been able to afford to get it ordered. And when they look at the order times, depending on what their option content is, it could be out there several years. This could be attractive for those departments to look at it and see if this will fill the bill for what they need.
Rex, go ahead. I see your hands up.
Yeah, so one thing after the QR code, if the customer's outside the Hughes territory or Hughes Pierce territory, we will coordinate and get your name, your email, your information into the correct Pierce dealership that is responsible for your territory.
Yeah. Yeah, and we know that this is something that we've already seen some interest. Obviously, Hughes doesn't serve California or Utah, and we work with those dealerships on a daily basis. So we'll be sharing their information across the boundaries. So how does it work? So we've just teased this spec. Obviously, you probably have a lot of questions, and that's where we'll be able to follow up and send that stuff out to you so you can comb through it. But the spec is a proven configuration, again, built on years of looking at what are departments really ordering, the most common times, maximizing the efficiency in manufacturing of those options. So things that manufacturer can replicate very successfully, quickly, and get that built for the fire service. Obviously, and that's not to say there aren't a lot of custom fire apparatus. In fact, most departments are um, buying custom fire apparatus, or there are some departments that really add a lot of customization. And I think a lot of the manufacturers have gotten really good at that. But it does take a lot of time, and obviously it adds some costs that are kind of driving these questions that we're having today. During the process, it will be built, and then there's a quality assurance final checkout at the factory that'll be done by different staff. The department doesn't need to go to the factory. That adds additional cost. And really that's some of the factors that are driving cost in fire apparatus is the trips and all the meetings and different things that are occurring at the factory. If that's something that you operationally have to have, then you can still achieve that. It just isn't within necessarily this program. And then the apparatus itself is delivered to one of the dealership locations. And that's where the department will come to a local dealership location and actually comb over the truck and inspect it and actually approve it for final delivery. So at that point, if there's anything that needs to be corrected, it'll be taken care of at that location, working with the manufacturer to make sure it's all done to their specifications. As it's done today, frankly, after delivery of an apparatus, it's maintained and warranty repairs are done more locally than back at the factory. And so that's a similar process that will occur here. Now we feel like, hey, if we're ordering a lot of these apparatus, just like we see in other OEMs, things get pretty dialed in, and there aren't really those little issues that need to be dealt with at the factory. So this won't be a foreign process to what we're seeing occurring just in the industry in general. And then the department accepts it and it's delivered. Again, it abbreviates the timeline. It's not sitting at the factory waiting for inspections. Those occur when it's time to go. And then that inspection occurs just locally with the fire department. So I believe it's faster. It's a proven process. I think departments are going to see higher levels of reliability. And then for Hughes, we will be working and seeing how many of these apparatus are ordered and stocking all the necessary parts so that if there are failures that occur, which it's natural, these fire apparatus get tested daily. We're going to have the parts on the shelf and the technicians available to work with your staff to make sure it gets taken care of and back in service as quick as we can. So I'll pause there for a sec. Chief, I don't know if you or Rex have any questions or comments.
Nope. I think I'll hit mine on the next slide.
Okay. All right, let's go next slide then.
Yep, I got this one. So I think, and we'll get the spec out. I'm sure most of you want to see the spec in more detail, and that'll be the QR code at the end. I just want to hit on this. This is going to require a little bit of a culture shift to get what the fire service wants. So when Rex and I first sat down, we developed some benchmarks of what we wanted to see in a program like this, and the benchmarks were pretty simple. Reduce or improve build time by 50% or greater. And as you've seen in the slide, that's definitely possible. When you're all waiting 3 and 4 years on current build times, and we can promote this in a much sooner build time, we're meeting that mission, that accomplishment. The other one was to reduce cost by 25% or greater. And based on the range that you saw, even if you add a few of those options, we're going to hit that. We're going to hit the 25% cost reduction. And this did not happen overnight. Rex, I just want to say thank you again. This was a lot of meetings with Pierce to say the Western wants to roll this out. I think we're also in a prove it period with Pierce to say, can we roll this out at scale? It's a fire engine, a pumper that the vast majority could work off of very successfully and meet the mission, right? And our mission is to go put the fire out, serve the community. And I know now our mission is respond to a lot of EMS calls as well. But the culture shift will have to happen, and it's going to have to start with leadership working within your departments to shift that culture. And one of those culture shifts is what Mike just mentioned. If we're going to reduce cost, going back to Appleton, as cool as it is, and I know it's a way to reward our apparatus committee members. I've been there, done that, but it does add a lot of cost. And a way to reduce that is to bring it back to the dealership in your region and do that inspection there. And so I know that there's some culture shift here, but the reality is if we want to change the narrative on delayed build times and high cost, we have to shift a little bit. And the fire service has done this for as many years as it's been in existence. We have shifted throughout the course of our history at various times with various things, right? SCBAs was a culture shift. Imagine back in the day when those salty guys like Mike had to be told, you got to put this SCBA on, right? We know that the fire service can shift and it's going to require one. So what we're rolling out to all of you is a way to reduce your build times and reduce your cost. That's simple. You heard Mike just also say, if we can design a spec that's repeatable, we can have parts on the shelf more readily available. So your delivery times are quicker, but also your turnaround times on repairs are quicker, which I know as a fire chief was always a struggle when we had a reserve fleet always in use as frontline because our first due apparatus, our frontline apparatus, it was taking a while to get the needed parts and get the repairs done. So I do really believe strongly we have found a win-win. What the Western's doing is a little bit unique. Right now, you've heard it's widespread. You've heard about the lawsuits, the challenges, all those things going on, white papers being written, the whole nine yards. What we wanted to do in the Western is find a solution to the problem. I committed to we're not going to write another white paper on the problem. We know what the problem is. So again, Rex, thanks for stepping up, you and Mike and the entire team at Hughes Fire. So next slide. This is where, for all of you and for any of you that are going to watch this recorded webinar, this is where you're going to submit your interest, and the Hughes team will now take that. We are live now. We're ready to go. The hope here and the goal here, I'm not going to say hope, the goal is that we get enough of these orders placed over time. Pierce recognizes the value in this program, dedicates a line just to this. And we believe that's possible, but we have to prove to Pierce first that this isn't another yet a moment in time where the fire service says we have a solution and then we move on to the next problem, go find a new solution. We are looking for sustainability here in the program, not just a one-time off-the-shelf offering, but truly a program that's sustainable over time. We believe we built one. Now it'll be up to the fire service to see, is this the solution? You all have been asking for one, and we're bringing you a solution. So with that, going to ask you to click on that QR code, take a picture. For those of you, I see a few names on here. If you're technology challenged, find somebody that's tech savvy. It's pretty easy. Put your camera up to it, open up your camera app, and just take a QR code and then inform or infuse into your information. So with that, I haven't seen any questions come across. I'm going to pause here. If you've got a question, type it in the chat. I know there's probably a lot of questions on the detail of the spec. You'll certainly get that so you can see the entire spec sheet itself. We didn't have enough room in this PowerPoint to do all the spec sheet and everything else, but just understand it is the most commonly asked for components of a fire engine, a pumper, that were put into the spec. And I want to add one more thing, and I had to get educated a little bit and go see it for myself. You know, the difference between an enforcer and a saber, I know titles have meaning, right? But if you look at the differences between those two, those are two incredibly good pumpers. So I would encourage you to look at both of the specs, not just one, not just say, oh, I'm an enforcer guy, or, you know, this is the Ford Chevy argument. Look at both of them and see really what fits the needs of your fire department. So real quick, you see a direct link. Is the 9 to 12 build time available now? I think that's all dependent upon the spec and the options that you might add on to it. So Mike, if you want to answer that one.
Yeah, that right now, Pierce would if a department wanted to hit go and place a PO, Pierce would be placing that order in that 9 to 12 month build time slot. And so yes, it's available today, which I know is huge for especially departments that maybe had a catastrophic failure or God forbid a fire apparatus got in a wreck, needs something to replace it quickly. I think this is going to be attractive for those cases.
Perfect. I'm just watching the chat. I don't see any more. So we're not going to keep you longer than you need to be. I'll just say this. If you're interested, please do the QR code. It's free, right, to get information. And ultimately, we hope that many of you that are either on live or watching this later take advantage of this. We'll continue to promote it. We're going to have this at Ignite as we roll out the program and keep the program rolling. We'll talk about it at Force, which is our upcoming leadership summit in Sisters, Oregon, and we're going to keep it front page because we do want to see this successful. We believe that this is the right pathway to a better future in apparatus, both pricing and delivery. Brian, as far as rescues go, we're starting with the pumpers, man, and we're going to continue to roll the pumper program. Could this turn into other categories? Possibly, but I'm not going to commit to it, and I certainly know Hughes won't as well. Let's prove it here first, that we can solve the pumper problem before we tackle rescues or Type 3 wildland engines or aerial trucks for that. So this is all about the pumper program.
Yeah,
The rescues, Mark, the rescues could fall into a program down the road if we can prove to peers that simplicity and continuity standard specifications will work. There
Yeah.
could be specific bodies, 12-foot, 16, 18-foot body with adjustable slide out trays. But the thing that the rescues get so complex in the specification is mounting all the equipment where the equipment, resides inside the body. The
Yep.
aerials would be actually um, a more simple truck to adapt into this program. But first, we have to prove to the manufacturer that this is a valid program. Their goal,
Yep.
as Mark mentioned, is to start a separate line, not run this down the normal production lines. So that's our end game to get to.
Yeah, and the traditional building process, if a department wants higher content, all those still exist. This was really an initiative, really started at the Western that said, hey, can we get a more simplified spec at a lower price? And obviously Pierce was willing to work with Hughes and the Western to put together this program. The other programs are still there. So if a department looks at this and says, "Hey, I want these options," it may still be in the program. If it goes higher than the program will allow, then they'll fall out into potentially one of the other ones, and then they just need to decide if that price point and delivery time is going to work for them. And there may be departments where, hey, some of my fleet needs to be higher content, but not all of it. And maybe there's a few that could use a truck like this. So I think it'll be an interesting conversation for departments to have internally.
And Mike, Rex, I think I'll add one more thing. We've talked about this is the start. This spec, whether you take the Enforcer or Sabre chassis, doesn't matter, is probably going to meet 80% of most fire department needs across the West. We also understand there's a desire for a more urban metro spec, lower hose beds, different cabinetry configurations, et cetera. And I got asked that, is there going to be another option rolled out in the future? And for right now, what we're going to say is, let's prove this one first. We need to prove to Pierce that we as the fire service can come together to create a spec that's highly repeatable, significantly reduces build times and lowers cost. With that, if we can prove it, I think there's a possibility we could have a discussion around a third spec into this. But I just want to make sure everybody understands that's down the road. We want to prove this first, that we can be successful and we can bring the fire service together and find a solution. So with that, share this program with your colleagues and partner departments will help get the word out. Yep. So if you have a neighboring department that wasn't on this call, we would encourage you to talk about it. Again, it's free to take a look. It doesn't cost you anything. And as you all face more challenges budgetarily and longer delays and out of service times, et cetera, I think that's going to drive this program. So if you're a department or an agency that is looking at how do we cut some costs, whether you're getting pressure from your elected officials, you're getting tax reductions and property tax from your state legislature, take your pick. This is a way to solve that problem and to meet the pressure. So with that, I don't see any more questions. Please take time to get more information. That's what we brought it to you for. With that, Mike, Rex, team, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it. And we'll follow up on this pretty soon.
Thank you.
All right.